Every time I look at our old wedding album, I see not a happy couple, but two strangers. And I still don't understand how we went from the altar to mutual hatred so quickly. I met Claire when I was 22. She was the embodiment of my dream. Red hair, freckles, a light laugh that could melt away any of my sorrows. Our relationship started easily, as if the universe itself wanted us to be together. The first 2 years were like a romantic movie. We walked around the city until late, holding hands, sharing a single serving of ice cream and dreaming of our future home. Back then, I thought our marriage would be a role model for others, but I didn't notice the small cracks that were appearing on our perfect facade. I was always the one who messaged first, who planned our dates and trips, who bought movie tickets. Claire was always more passive, waiting for me to take the initiative, but I wrote it off as her shyness. I thought it was cute that I was her hero who always took charge. From the very beginning, I earned more, and her job was more of a hobby than a career. She loved to say that her calling was to be the keeper of the hearth, and I never objected. This doesn't mean she was a gold digger, not at all. She just wanted to live comfortably and do what she enjoyed. I was ready to give her that. But looking back, I think she never felt on the same level as me. I was an ordinary guy, without a perfect physique or an expensive car. She was beautiful and popular, and I think she was always looking for something more. A few years ago, she started going to the gym. At first, I was happy. I thought it was good for her health. But then she started coming home later and later. She said she was catching up with a friend, but I felt something was wrong. My gut instinct screamed, but I didn't want to listen. I convinced myself it was paranoia, that I trusted my wife. I didn't want to be the kind of husband who controls every step. I gave her freedom. I gave her everything she wanted, and she took it for granted. One day, she said she was going on a weekend trip with friends and asked me to pay for her share. I did it, without any questions. She left on Friday, but came back on Saturday already. She was depressed, barely spoke to me, and there were traces of tears on her face. I couldn't understand what had happened. I started to worry, asking what was wrong. She didn't answer, just sat there, staring into space. And only when I hugged her did she break down in tears. That was the first time I heard her confession. She said it was a mistake, that she never meant to hurt me. She had met him at the gym, and they were just friends until they crossed the line. I stood there, stunned. My world collapsed in a single second. I couldn't believe my ears. I didn't want to believe it. She said he was a fleeting crush, that she didn't love him. But then she said something that hurt me more than anything else. She said she had done things with him that she had never done with me. That phrase pierced my heart like a knife. In that minute, I felt not only the pain of betrayal, but also humiliation. I didn't know what to do. I just left the room and ran to the bathroom. I felt so sick that I threw up several times. I couldn't breathe. I looked at my reflection in the mirror and didn't recognize myself. I saw a broken, humiliated man whose life had been destroyed by a lie. I went back to the room and started yelling at her, asking, "How could you? Why did you do this to me?" She just cried and repeated that she didn't know. Her tears seemed so sincere that I almost was ready to believe her. She begged for forgiveness, pleaded for me to give her another chance. I didn't know if I could ever forgive her, but at that moment, I just wanted the pain to go away.
We started going to therapy. I thought it would help us become a single whole again. But every time we sat in the therapist's office, I felt like we were talking about someone else's problems. She promised complete transparency, quit the gym, and even tried to find that guy to talk to him. But he just disappeared. I thought it was fair, but then I realized it was just her way of controlling the situation. She came clean to my parents and her mother. My parents, who had always considered her perfect, were shocked but immediately took her side. They told me that mistakes happen, that marriage is work, and that we should get through this together. I couldn't understand how they could be so calm. Sometimes I lost my temper and yelled at her. I called her terrible names, and I didn't care that I was hurting her. I wanted her to feel the same pain I was feeling. And although she mostly silently accepted all my words, a few times she responded in kind. She said she would take me for all I was worth and that no other woman would ever love me. And even though she apologized for those words, they left a deep mark. I knew they were said in anger, but I couldn't forget them. She went to great lengths to atone for her guilt. She even signed a prenuptial agreement that was in my favor. She became more proactive in our sex life and even offered to try new things. I thought that should make me happy, but in reality, it only made the situation worse. I couldn't forget that she had done those things with someone else. Since then, I couldn't touch her the same way. I was disgusted by the very thought that she had been with him. We were each other's first in almost everything, and then she went and slept with another man. She said she wanted to make up for lost time, wanted to prove to me that I was the only one. But I couldn't believe a single word she said anymore. I was still angry at her, but I convinced myself that things were getting better. We lived together like roommates, not like husband and wife. We stopped talking about our feelings, we just existed. I convinced myself that this was normal. I started going to the gym myself. I got in shape, I felt better. I stopped checking her phone and her social media. I thought I had finally forgiven her. I was sure that our marriage was saved and we had become stronger. I started to trust her. I started to feel like myself again. My life, it seemed, was starting to return to normal. But something inside me still wouldn't let me go. I felt like I had lost a part of myself, and I didn't know how to get it back. I couldn't love her as much as I used to. A year and a half ago, everything changed. I met a new colleague at work. We immediately hit it off. We could talk for hours about books, movies, and music. We stayed late just to talk. I felt free. I had no bad thoughts. I just enjoyed her company, her intelligence, her sense of humor. And then I realized that something was wrong with my marriage. I realized that I wasn't happy. I realized that I just settled for what I had. The moment I realized this, all the old pain and resentment came back. I started remembering that night again. I remembered her face, her tears, her words. I thought I was so strong that I could forgive her. But for some reason, when I saw that I could be happy with someone else, I realized that I hadn't forgiven her. I had just suppressed my feelings. I realized that she had never been punished for what she had done. I was the one who suffered, who went through therapy, and who tried to fix everything. And her? She just continued to live as if nothing had happened. And that thought just killed me. I decided I wasn't going to play this game anymore. I took her phone and I found what I knew I would find.
I found what I was looking for. A dozen missed calls from an unknown number and messages she had tried to delete. I couldn't believe my eyes. She had done it again. Again! I felt neither pain nor anger. I only felt emptiness. I realized that all our efforts, all the therapy, all her promises, it was all just a farce. I didn't want a scandal. I didn't want to yell. I just realized that I didn't care anymore. This news didn't destroy my world like the first time. It just confirmed what I already knew. Our love was dead, and I didn't want to pretend anymore. The next day I went to the office, and that same day I asked that same colleague out on a date. I didn't know what I was doing. I just wanted to feel something. I wanted to feel alive. We went to a bar and I told her everything. I told her about my marriage, about my pain, about how I felt, and she just listened. She didn't judge, she didn't pity me, she just listened. And that evening I kissed her, and it felt so right, so honest. I felt like I was breathing again, for the first time in years. It wasn't revenge, it was liberation, and I finally felt that I was ready to move on. I called a lawyer. I just wanted to end this once and for all. I started coming home later and later. I didn't answer her calls, I didn't explain my absence. I knew she felt that something was wrong. I saw her sad eyes, her frightened face, but I felt nothing. I wanted her to feel the same pain that I had once felt. She tried to talk to me. She asked what was happening, why I was acting this way. I was silent. I waited for her to muster the courage, and a week later she came up to me and said we had to talk. I was ready. I was ready to end this. I told her everything. I told her I knew about her calls. I told her I knew she had tried to deceive me again. And then I told her about myself, about my own affair. I looked at her face and I saw pain there. I saw shock, despair. She couldn't believe her ears. She fell to her knees and started screaming. She screamed that I had no right to do this to her, that I was ruining her life. Then she started crying. She said she only called him because they and other friends were planning a surprise for my birthday. And then I realized she was lying again. I just got up and left. I went to a motel. And since then, I haven't answered her calls or messages. My parents, my friends, her family, everyone has tried to contact me. They said I should go back, that she needed me. They said she was depressed, that she wasn't eating, that she was threatening to kill herself. My mother even took her into her house. She said she would take care of her until I came to my senses. I don't understand how they can do that. My parents, who told me I should forgive her, are now condemning me for not forgiving her. They said it was wrong for me to treat her this way. But I feel no guilt. I feel free. I feel like I've finally shed this burden. I know I didn't act perfectly, but I couldn't have done otherwise. I had to do this for myself. So, that's the end of my story. Maybe it seems unfair to you. Maybe you think I acted selfishly. But I'm just tired. Tired of the lies, the betrayal, the pretense. I don't know what will happen next, but I know that I am ready to live. And now I'm curious to hear your opinion. Who, in your opinion, was in the wrong in this story? What would you have done in my place? Write your thoughts in the comments and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss new videos.